What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist and Stochastic here on the Untitled Chapter channel coming to you with an on-the-road edition of Ladies, Lanes, Likes, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video. Goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at a little neck of the YouTube woods. If you see cars going by me, if you see some chaos going around me, well, don't mind it. Internet is completely out at the spot that I'm staying, and so I had to come down the way to the local coffee shop, sit in my car, because the music's too loud. But you know what? I put in the work for you, and all you want are the picks anyway, right? So, hey, this is still going to work out. You're going to get the information you need. I am going to continue to be panicked. So, you win. You win, friends. Producer Jacob is the absolute man, though. He's making this work somehow, some way. This is an on-the-road edition, week 3. I don't know, every road. No, we're not going to bet every road team. That's a terrible idea. But you are going to bet $10 over at BetMGM. Get yourself $200 in bonus bets for $50 bonus bets when you sign up at the link below, only for 21 and over. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. I have lots of other problems. One of them is not finding picks. I have plenty of picks. In fact, I have more picks fired up for this card that I've probably had on any MLB card that I can remember, or any NFL week in the last 2.5 years. That's pretty wild. I have a lot that I'm interested in. Now, there are a lot of different ways to go about playing this. There are some that I've combined in a couple of parlays just to reduce some of what I'm looking at in terms of investment on this slate, because I like a lot. You're going to find that out very, very shortly here. So without further ado, producer Jacob, why don't we just get to the picks? Oh, I guess I got to do analysis now, too. That'll be fun. Tennessee, Cleveland. Tennessee's on the road like me. Also, this is a really good doggy bed. I don't know what Mixed Joy, friends. Completely not sponsored by. Fantastic stuff. Dog fell asleep the entire drive. It's beautiful here. Anyway, we've got ourselves Tennessee and Cleveland and Mike Vrabel. Pretty interesting stuff that we've seen here of late, but that's not the interesting thing from this team. They ended up pulling the win off late there against the Chargers. Chargers now an 0-2 fest going into Minnesota against my Vikings. We'll talk about that one later, but this line opened at 4.5 for Cleveland, and it's dipped a point. It's pretty easy to see why, friends. It's Deshaun Watson, who's been dicey, lackluster 2022 in a Browns uniform, followed by game management issues in week 1. I mean, he was just basically a game manager. Their defense did everything. And then in week 2, did not look comfortable in the pocket, did not look comfortable, period. This could be, in hindsight, one of the worst contracts in NFL or NFL history if it doesn't right the ship. But there's one thing that I know is that none of us are pulling for him. As for Tennessee, a narrow victory in week 2 at home against those Chargers. Talked about that earlier. But Tannehill, he goes from a Chargers K-pop defense where he went 20 for 24, shredded them to bits, and now he's facing a Browns defense that's been holding the opposition to just 133.5 passing yards per game, second best mark in the NFL. Let's be serious. A broken, banged up, hurt calf Joe Burrow in week 1, that's been brutal too. And then Kenny Pickett in week 2. I wouldn't have expected much either in those matchups. So there's at least a chance Tannehill finds success here. He also has an alpha in Hopkins, an alpha at the running back position in Derrick Henry. This has dropped a point. I'm sad I missed out on the 4.5, but I ended up jumping in at 4, and I think you can join me, friends, at 3.5 for a half unit. Pretty straightforward play for me to kick off the day. Now, this is a really fun matchup. We've got some news. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be active for this football game. He practiced in full here on Friday. David Montgomery didn't. Huge question mark, and I think 2 question marks exist around this slate, this game. We're looking on the Detroit side with that David Montgomery huge Q tag there because Jahmyr Gibbs could get completely unlocked. The 12th pick. Well, the 8th pick on the other side, Bijan Robinson, could also continue to get unlocked. More goal line work, more opportunity there. I think Tyler Allgeier's the guy that if they're up 1 or 2 scores early in games, they'll just keep Bijan Robinson healthy, keep him off the field, and just run into the back of the offensive line there with Tyler Allgeier. But Cordarrelle Patterson is questionable for this one, and I think his status is actually going to matter for me. I haven't fired anything up on this game, but I'm looking at these running back positions because currently at some of these anytime touchdown numbers that aren't available yet, I'm projecting a break-even point inside of minus 120. This is a game with a 46.5 total, a very run-heavy Atlanta offense, and Detroit, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just flat out good, as do you probably use. So for me, I think anything inside of those numbers in a game with this kind of a total, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit taken easy on going into this week. You want to protect that guy. It matters if you want to have any kind of title aspirations as Detroit. Wild to say that out loud and not have it sound ridiculous. Anyway, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, looking at both their anytime touchdown plays, I need to get some more information here, so this is going to be TBD, but pay attention to the Cordarrelle Patterson news, and obviously David Montgomery. I don't want to fire this up if he is active. Hey, Green Bay going up against New Orleans here, and I have a lot to say about this one, and not a lot of good things on the Green Bay side, and I'll get to why, but it's not even being a Vikings hater. It's recognition that we've had Jordan Love play a lot better football than we expected, but I want to focus first on not Michael Thomas at the wide receiver position for New Orleans, not even Chris Olave at the wide receiver position here for New Orleans, but Rashid Shaheed. I'm in love with this prop. I almost locked it. I ended up pulling the drawstrings back a little bit. You can bet these individually. You can bet them as a parlay. I ended up firing them up. I understand the juice is a little bit narrower. I'll talk about why. But Shaheed this season, 145 air yards, 152 receiving yards through 2 weeks. Then also 42% of snaps in week 1. 51% of snaps in week 2, seems to have good rapport with Derek Carr. Derek Carr, he likes guys like this, whether it was the Zay Jones back in the I almost said Oakland, Las Vegas days. I guess he was there in Oakland forever. Spent more time in Oakland. I'm not going to correct myself, but Shaheed, I said at the beginning of this season when I broke down week 1 that I think he could be hashtag good at football. And we're starting to see a little bit of an upward trend there in the snaps. And if Olave and Thomas keep drawing as much attention as what they do on a weekly basis, especially Jair Alexander here in the pack matchup, I mean, that one confirmed matters. He's good at cornerback. We're looking at a Yahtzee situation for Shaheed, over 39.5 receiving yards, but that's not all. I also want to get myself the New Orleans money line here. Now, I'm going to just be damned with the points here. Plus 105. Don't blame me if you want to take them and put that in your parlay and smoke it. But, I'm going to be opting more for the aggressive play here because the Packers, most likely without Aaron Jones, even though he got upgraded to questionable, wasn't doubtful like he was last week, got ruled out early. We knew it was A.J. Dillon season, even though that season sucks. It's like winter in Canada. But Christian Watson probably out for another week, creating some issues for Jordan Love, who has exceeded expectations, said it at the jump, but he's done so with kitty gloves on that Matt LaFleur put there. Get this. Love has led the entire NFL in quarterback rating through 2 weeks of the season, and yet he's not being asked to do much, attempting just 26 attempts per game and 198 passing yards per game. And he is without his 2 biggest weapons, Jones and Watson. It's all as me leaning with the plus money road dog here. So, Shaheed, over 39.5, plus the New Orleans money line. Do your due diligence. Shop for the best line. I love the spacing there, producer Jacob. Nothing like doing your due diligence and giving your producer crap when you're in a car. I'm literally doing a show from a car. This is a fun one, friends. Miami, Denver. Did you know Tyreek Hill is good at football? Did you know there's a possibility of no Jalen Waddle out there and then he'd be Braxton Berrios and just nothing? Like, what are we doing here? This is obviously Tyreek Hill's smash fest. And Denver giving up a ton to Sam Howell and company, giving up some on the ground, some through the air. And I think Bill Belichick did us a favor here as bettors. If you hadn't had Christian Gonzalez, one of the best cover corners already as a rookie out of Oregon, I am so impressed by what he's been able to do. And Bill Belichick does not reach up for cornerbacks in the draft, generally waits for them, finds those steals in the draft. He wanted his dude, and man, he locked down Tyreek Hill in some of those plays where nobody else is really going up vertical with Tyreek Hill on a jump ball and coming down with it the way that Christian Gonzalez was able to. So shout out the Ducks. Also, let me know down below if you're playing Colorado or Oregon. That's going to be a fun game. 20.5? 20.5 is a wild number. I won't tell you which way I lean because, again, college football, not my thing. I'm an NFL bettor, and I will tail my guy, Ben Raza. I will tail my guy, Isaiah Suarez, in the premium Discord. You can sign up for that below as well. But this is so clear-cut and straightforward. 84.5 receiving yards going up against this Denver team. This is probably my second favorite prop on the board here. I've got one coming up a little bit later that is a lock. Ironically, also just played Denver. Ironically, I expect this Denver team, yeah, their defense is going to have to matter, but I was not impressed by what we saw in week 2 against Washington. I thought Washington would be better, but This is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, the most dangerous wide receiver playing in Miami, healthy Tua, possibly no Waddle. Give me all that is Tyreek Hill here, over 84.5 receiving yards. Find yourself a good line. Make sure you're not paying too much juice. This should be a standard minus 110 slam. I don't know what I want my Minnesota Vikings to do here because there's a possibility. I'm just going to throw this out, put a little sprinkle on this. You can't really bet it, but is there a chance that if the Vikings lose this football game, that Kirk Cousins could be on the trade block to the Jets? I'm just saying, Zach Wilson has not looked good. Kirk Cousins, I think he's good, but he's not playing on anything. It's a one-year deal. They did not extend him here. So just throwing that out into the world here. But Cam Akers gets activated. What a time to be alive. The trade that I didn't ask for my team. I know he has familiarity here with the offense, but it is what it is. Anyway, this is just two bad defenses, and so far through 2 weeks, have you seen anything for the Vikings side of things? Vikings defense is abysmal. I don't know what to tell you. Chargers defense, letting Tannehill go 20 for 24, looking like the second coming of Brady. No, these are not good things. 80% passing here for the Vikings. No running game with no Austin Eckler going to be active here for Sunday. Another dose of Joshua Kelly. Enjoy that festival. That's a festival I don't want to attend, kind of like a Renaissance fair. But we are looking at the over, friends. Very, very simple, clear cut, easy going. Sorry to all you Renaissance fair lovers out there. Over 53.5. Again, I don't have a whole lot to add. These are very, very good passing attacks. This is going to shoot out like crazy. Again, wish I had gotten in on the ground floor. Got in at 52.5, 53.5. This is going to close 54, 55. Enjoy. It's going to be a party at US Bank. Talking about New England and the Jets. I was going to do a Elton John bit, and then I realized I'm in a car. It's not very funny. Nobody wants jokes. I don't want to make jokes. I don't have jokes to say. We have New England. We have the Jets, and overall, we're looking at Zach Wilson. Not exactly having fun down in Dallas, but can you blame him? He was always going to struggle against Dallas. Doesn't surprise you, doesn't surprise me. He takes on a New England team, though, and this is where I think this is a pretty clear-cut half-unit play as well. New England, inside of a field goal, as good as the Jets' defense is, there's no way that they can overcome a limited Breece Hall, a limited Dalvin Cook, and then Garrett Wilson getting blanketed, shadow-covered by a dude who just shut down Tyreek Hill. And I understand Garrett Wilson's a completely different skill set, but Christian Gonzalez, I don't factor in cornerback matchups all that much. I know it's a fun thing to talk about. It's buzzworthy, but it's almost always schematics, a defensive coordinator, a head coach, how they're going to go about scheming against specific players. Bill Belichick takes away the best option. That's Garrett Wilson, probably Breece Hall to some capacity here too. I think Breece Hall was probably a little bit limited last game because it got out of hand. Zach Wilson, as bad as what he was, in the first half, the picks, I'm actually willing to overlook it because 3 of them, all on the last 3 series of that drive. But all of that being considered, I get to lay less than a field goal against Zach Wilson in the year of our Lord 2023. Why am I not doing it? The answer is I am doing it. New England minus 2.5. Another pretty easy play that just stands out for me. Could see this moving to 3, 3.5. Would probably just pass at those numbers. This one is a lock, and there's not a whole lot to say about it here. I'll at least give you a little teaser here on the Bills side of things. You saw them come back to life. 38-10, I believe, just an absolute shellacking that we got there against the Las Vegas. I almost said Oakland again. My God, what's wrong with me? But 38-10 shellacking that they put on. Nice to see Gabe Davis with a pulse. Hey, they do exist. I already did the M&M's bit once upon a time, but it was fun. Anyway, no time for that. There's no time for jokes. Not when somebody like Antonio Gibson fumbles in week 1, and it became the Brian Robinson Jr. show up in Mile High. Oh my God, did you watch him run downhill? Only 4.8 yards per carry. Again, only saying that it looked like he was gaining 7, 8, 9 per carry, but got in the box twice, along with 3 targets in the passing game. Gibson starting to get his snap share reduced here after that fumble there in week 1. Probably an underutilized, under-talked about thing. Only has 5 carries now through the first 2 weeks and only 4 targets. This has been all Brian Robinson on the field, and now you're going up against a Buffalo team that I think is kind of gettable on the ground. They weren't very good against it last season, and 113.5 rushing yards per game, 19th in the NFL through 2 weeks. And one of those was against Josh Jacobs and a team that was playing from behind. So like that should have trimmed into it a little bit, but I think they're going to be neutral against the run. And this is not a neutral against the run number that we have here for Brian Robinson. 56.5 rushing yards for a guy who is routinely now through 2 weeks touched the ball 19 and 18 times in the rushing attack, has gone over this number in both of them. And I understand that this is a difference between mean and median. And what are the Buffalo Bills going to do here? They are the favorites, but this is a home team, 2-0, looking to go 3-0, that is absolutely solidifying itself with the run game. Brian Robinson Jr., this is a 10, 12 yards too low kind of a number, and you give me that inside of 70 yards, I'm going to lock it pretty much every single time, especially for somebody who has bell cow capabilities here going forward. He's built for it. He is definitely, I think if we didn't have the crazy situation he had started season off last year, we would have looked at Brian Robinson as one of the top running backs in the game coming into this season. That's how highly I rate him as a runner. Now, maybe the passing game can use a little bit work, but we don't need that. We're taking rushing yards, 56.5, my favorite play on the entire board, period, for Sunday. My friends, BetMGM, sign up down below at the link. You get yourself $200 instantly and 4 $50 bonus bets when you bet just $10 at the get-go. There is no better offer than this. You need to take advantage of it right now if you haven't signed up at BetMGM because, again, I want to make you money. That's the point of these videos. I'm not doing them for myself and my personal enjoyment. I'm not doing them because I want books to change the lines against my numbers. I'm doing it because I like helping people win. I like being a teacher. I like helping you find out your process on how you can be profitable at sports betting, specifically here in the NFL. And the number one way I know to guarantee yourself a W, especially if you're betting $40, $50, $60 a week. You know, if you're betting more than that, if you're firing up a little bit more like me, obviously you have some different range of outcomes for it. And maybe it isn't the best deal of all time, but for a lot of you, betting 10 and getting 4 $50 bonus bets is a huge deal. And it's a huge deal. It's a bankroll builder. It's a bankroll booster. So take advantage of that in the link below over at BetMGM, only if you're 21 and over. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Alrighty, y'all, back to the picks. I now have the sun beating down at me in the weirdest angle of all time. It's kind of like Trevor Lawrence looking confused in the pocket last week. Jacksonville sun. It was also hot as balls out there. I'm going to just write off everything that we saw in week 2 to a certain extent here with Jacksonville. This is one of the few games that I don't have a play on because I don't know what I believe anymore when it comes to CJ Stroud. Maybe he's good, has not turned the ball over, has been chucking it all over the yard, has made fantasy viable outcomes out of Woods. Robert Woods, the corpse of Robert Woods. Nico Collins has been a top 5 wide receiver already in fantasy. I mean, he's no Puka Nacua. He's no Puka Nacua. I love Puka Nacua so much. Probably one of my better calls in the NFL period. Yeah, you're right. You saw my week 1 video. You knew that I was in on him. You knew I had him in every league. You knew that I was taking his rushing. That made no sense. His passing attempts. Did I see 100 right out of the gate? No. Did I see him being the most targeted wide receiver in the NFL? No. But I also didn't see this passing attack from Houston being this decent. Again, I'm using the word decent because I'm not positive that CJ Stroud is that guy, because in Ohio State, you get Jackson Smith and Jigba, you get Marvin Harrison Jr., you get Chris Olave, you get absolute thoroughbreds from the get-go, and it's really hard to evaluate quarterbacks in that kind of a situation because it's so pro-style, and in a Big Ten that really, I mean, most of these teams are built around defense. Ohio State is always much better on the offensive side of the ball than everybody else they play within the division. So that is my college thesis. Or not. Go Big 12, go Iowa State. Even our team's fucking terrible this year. Let's look over here at the over, my friends, of 44. It's the only thing I'm leaning about here, mainly because Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he can play worse. I also think Kansas City maybe a little bit undervalued as a defense. Getting Chris Jones back into the mix. It was beautiful watching him get after the quarterback there in Trevor Lawrence. But if there's anything here, this total's come down all throughout the week. I think this is starting to be the spot where we need to buy in on the over 43.5, 43, but I'm going to wait for it. I got enough other plays on this card, but this one really intrigues me. 2 teams that I feel to be far more offensively forward than from the defensive side of the ball. We got the Colts, we got Baltimore, and this is basically the weirdest two back-to-back games that I'm going to break down for you here on this program. We got massive news. Anthony Richardson not going to be playing in week 3. And I'm almost going to say it's a good thing going into Baltimore, and here's why. Gardner Minshew, maybe one of the more underrated backup quarterbacks that exists in the NFL. He could be a starter on a lot of teams. He backed up Philly very admirably at times. At the end of that last season, wasn't perfect by any means, but you look at a league average backup, he is far exceeding it. I put him in the top 3 category. In fact, with another guy who is coming up next on the next game that we're also going to be backing in his first start of the season. Gardner Minshew in relief against Houston. Let's remember it's Houston and their defense is not a whole heck of a lot, but looked great in that second half in relief of Richardson after he had those 2 rushing touchdowns. But Gardner Minshew overall, I think is very serviceable as a backup. So for this line to move as much as it has and to be sitting at 8.5 now, again, it went down and it came back to 8.5. Been sitting kind of around that number. I think this is pretty darn good to be jumping in on the Colts side. And I know the Colts aren't the say-all, end-all. They lost to Jacksonville in pretty convincing fashion, 31-21, although the game was never really that close to me. Baltimore side of things, they are now down to another running back in Indianapolis, one of the better linebacking cores that there exists in football. And I think this is where I think they're going to have to utilize Lamar Jackson a little bit more in the running game than what they've done in the first couple games of the season. And that creates kind of a question mark for me. Again, 18 rushing attempts, 6 for 38, 12 for 54 did Lamar Jackson have in weeks 1 and 2 respectively. But I'm looking at this linebacking core from the Colts side of the football with Franklin and Leonard and Speed, and then Stewart and Buckner with the defensive interior guys. They're all top grades on PFF. We're talking the top 10 defensive interior linemen. Yeah, their secondary is not good. The Colts secondary is abysmal and is going to lead to some shootouts. But we're going to see Lamar Jackson have to be utilized in this running attack with no J.K. Dobbins for the rest of the season, as well as be able to create aisles here for Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. Nelson Aguilar could not have played better in relief of Odell Beckham Jr., who's going to be out here for this football game. So friends, oh my God, am I really doing this? Colts plus 8.5? You damn right I am. Prove it to me, Baltimore. Prove it to me. Lamar Jackson without his offseason buddy Odell Beckham. Zay Flowers. It's going to be a great opportunity to see what that kid's made of. I think he's really, really good. But let me get the points and find out. As if you didn't vomit enough betting on the Colts and Gardner Minshew last time around, let's bet on Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers, who I think is a quarterback upgrade over Bryce Young. Yeah, you heard me say it. Bryce Young, one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a long time. I'm kind of disappointed by what we've seen from him the first 2 weeks, but he will be missing this football game going up to Seattle. I almost said the link. Not the link. The link is Philadelphia, Eric. These are the things that happen to you when you're sweating balls up here in the mountains trying to give people the analysis on your laptop. But you know what else? Andy Dalton had a career-high QBR last season in New Orleans. Made very fantasy viable, very viable passing attacks out of guys like Chris Olave in his rookie season. So what are we looking at doing here? Oh my goodness. We are getting the extra 2.5 points that I think are a gift from God. Now, I think this line probably opened up a little inefficient had it even been Bryce Young there. But Adam Thielen is not a wide receiver one. As much as I love number 19 from the Minnesota Vikings once upon a time, there's no way that if he's the most targeted football player on this football team going forward, that things are going to be going well for them. He had 9 targets, 7 catches, 54 yards, the touchdown in relief. He can still be that red zone guy, but just saying, it's going to be a little bit wonky. And Seattle, nice to see them here in Detroit, just continue to figure things out. But here is where this is where it really makes sense to me. We have Miles Sanders. He's going to be healthy and ready to rock here. And Chuba Hubbard came in. They did the 2-minute drill. Things really rotated well there. But I think there's a nice balance that they can strike between Sanders and between Hubbard, where I think they're going to have some really good opportunities here against a Seattle defense that is not very good, that basically is going to be playing shootouts all the live long day. And based on what we saw from Andy Dalton last season, as much as I'm besmirching the name of good Adam Thielen here and don't believe him to be the guy, there's at least a number of different skill players that do different things for Carolina that I think can create mismatches against a Seattle defense that's just not equipped to handle anybody. DJ Chark, You got Jonathan Mingo, Terrence Marshall Jr., Laviska Shenault Jr. They've had a lot of these guys active throughout the first couple weeks of the season. Think Andy Dalton's going to find ways to utilize them and make this game competitive. I didn't say win. I said make it competitive. And when you give me 6.5 with a line moving north because of a quarterback that I find to be worse at this point in time, not in the future, not what Bryce Young could, or not what he could be, but Andy Dalton can manage a football game in Seattle against this defense. Give me the 6.5, 2.5 point blessing from open. Let's go. I'm making too damn much sense, right? Too much sense today. Taking some dogs. I would have to go with the favorite here, which is why I think I'm going to be steering away. But let's talk through it. Chicago, they're an absolute shambles. They have a defensive coordinator that there's stuff on Twitter that you wouldn't believe is going on. Yeah. Use the Google machine. It's invented for a reason. You've got Justin Fields saying that it's coaching, man. Bro, it's coaching. Well, it's going to be coaching here too, because you're going up against Kansas City. They got their best defensive player active, signed, re-upped, ready to rock. I don't see things getting better for this 0-2 Bears team, and I doubt you do either, but we're talking 11.5 in the National Football League. I know that there was talk about Roschon Johnson being the number one now here. I'll see it when I believe it and believe it when I see it. I don't care. Nobody wants to back the Bears at this kind of a number, but I don't think I want to back Kansas City at this kind of a number either. Came sputtering out of the gate there against Jacksonville, but won a really tough game. Low scoring affair, not what was expected. I think this one has a little bit more shootout potential because of what Justin Fields can create with his legs. Maybe he does get to play free and like he's playing pickup at the Y and just smashing souls, but more than likely they're going to get trounced. But Patrick Mahomes, him and Kelsey, they connected. Nice touchdown. Kansas City, we're still waiting for other skill position players to start emerging. You have some questions here at the running back position, at least where Isaiah Pacheco, he's dinged up with a hamstring injury. It could be Jerick McKinnon season. It could be the corpse of Clyde Edwards-Helaire showing up and having to play tons of snaps here. I think there's just enough around here where Kansas City probably wins by 2 touchdowns, but this feels like a pretty efficient line, 11.5 to 12.5. If I had maybe jumped in at 11.5, I could have dabbled, but again, enough other plays I'm interested in on this slate. Let's steer clear of the atmosphere over what is going down at Arrowhead, which is probably a beating, but I'm not laying the 12.5 to find out. Speaking of beatings, welcome to Arizona, Dallas. Enjoy. Oh boy. Josh Gibbs, the ultimate absolute meltdown that was that week 2 loss to the New York Football Giants. My goodness. This opened at 10.5, has already moved to 12, I think rightfully so. This Dallas defense, the big news is they lose Diggs for the entire season. That's brutality for him to have a torn ACL just in practice, and practice injuries are the absolute worst. Not a game. Practice. Not a game. Practice, not a game. Well, this is a football game, and Tony Pollard has led the NFL with 48 touches through 2 weeks. 48 touches for a skill position player in 2 negative game scripts. Get this, in terms of neutral adjusted field, you are looking at a 40-0 week 1 win where Pollard still saw the ball way above expectation. Didn't rotate through some of these other pieces, maybe just to kind of get the offense going here first week of the season, but then in week 2, another game clearly in hand, Tony Pollard gets tons of work. They average 24 touches a game through 2 games. He's going to be a bell cow back. He's going to be that utilized guy here. Going into Arizona, his involvement in the passing game, his involvement here on the ground, this is just so easy. Now, this is my second favorite prop, tied for second favorite prop. I had a like earlier that I'm also kind of contemplating here, but Tony Pollard in the box, they can't set this line high enough. You can't set this outside of -160, -170 and not have me still play it. Tony Pollard's a lock. He's going to score against Arizona. 48 touches. What are they going to do? Bring in Deuce Vaughn at the goal line? No, they're not. What are they going to do? CeeDee Lamb would have to take 60, 70 yarders to the house and make it work. Again, producer Jacob, do not parlay my anytime touchdown locks and screw it up this week. You know what I'm talking about. You know. We smashed the Kelsey. We smashed the Barkley. We are smashing the Tony Pollard this week to the moon. Knocks in a moon from the mummy. And our last game of the day. Steelers. The haters. Other than producer Jacob probably going to this football game. You going to this football game? You're not. Maybe I'll get you a ticket if I smash in the morning. Maybe not. Anyway, I don't really want to talk about this. Do you want to talk about Kenny Pickett? Deontay Johnson continuing to be out? Their defense is really, really good. But then this Raiders side, laid an egg. Absolute egg in Buffalo. A lot of teams are going to lay an egg in Buffalo. One of the more difficult football environments to travel across the country and just play in. Absolute trap spot. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo. This opened at a pick'em. It's now at the efficient number. I repeat, bet early. Bet early. I know it's Friday here for me, and I'm doing this video on Fridays mainly because I want to get the practice report data from you, and then I want to give you updated picks. Watch Luffy's video on Wednesdays. Please, please, please watch Luffy's videos on Wednesdays. And not only that, be reacting to news on Sundays, on Mondays. As soon as you can get to these lines, be betting them. If you have a hunch, if you are looking into the numbers the same way I am, you're able to get values on spots like this. Did I completely mess it up and not get it here? Yes, I did. Should have bet on the Vegas side of things. But I kind of prefer Pittsburgh in this matchup a little bit. I'd lay the 3 if you made me right now. But you don't have to bet everything. So don't bet everything. I bet a lot on this week, friends. But I'm not going to be betting this here on Sunday. And that does it for another editions of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks here, week 3 edition. Head down there to the comment section and let me know how amazing it was that I kept my composure here with the environment and things, the world. It's okay. We made it happen. Producer Jacob made it happen, friends. Thank you so much to him for his ideas, game planning, story, how we were going to get this video out for the people, but hopefully you enjoyed it. We were able to get you the info. That's what matters most. Just like betting $10, getting $200, that matters quite a bit too. Over at BetMGM, only if you're 21 and over. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That does it for me. I'm going to go out on a boat for the rest of my afternoon, maybe hit a golf ball. Who knows? The world's my oyster. Until next time, friends, week 4, I'll be back in my home studio for the love of God. Oh, that'd be great. Till next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NFL streets for week 3.